right, hello everybody. Welcome into Bills Weekly here on FingerLakes1.com. I am Paul Russo. Kyle Evans and Jim Senecropi are back here with me this week. We'll be discussing the Bills steamrolling the Raiders on Sunday afternoon. We'll also be taking a look ahead to Week 3, the matchup against the Washington Commanders. But first, before we get any further, I want to thank today's sponsor of the podcast, Auburn Auto Group. When it comes to selection and service after the sale, Auburn Auto Group has been the premier destination for new and used buyers for close to 40 years. Among the brands offered on the Route 5 location in Auburn include Chevrolet, GMC, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Honda, Toyota, and Subaru. Thanks to our wide range of makes and models, you're sure to find your new or used car at Auburn Auto Group. So, the Bills, like I said, steamrolling the Raiders in Week 2, 38-10. Quick thoughts out of the gate here before we jump in, guys. Jim, begin with you out of the studio last week. Good to see you're feeling a little bit better.
Yes.
Able to join us.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. This week will probably be a more enjoyable conversation than last week's was.
Sure.
But this is what you'd expect from a team that's a AFC championship contender. I don't think we learned too much from it. And the jury's still out, in my opinion, on this team.
Kyle?
Yeah, for me, this Bills team needed to bounce back, but they needed to bounce back in a big way, and I thought they did just that. But I mean, if you're watching the game to start off, the first 2 minutes, the Raiders go right down and score, and then stop the Bills, with a 3-and-out. You're like, man, it's just going to be another rough week. But then from that point on, they outscored them 38-3, and I thought the passing game was very good, the running game was good. They only punted one time, but we kind of knew going into this game that the Raiders' defense wasn't nearly as good as the Jets. So I'm kind of on the same page with him a little bit. This game really didn't tell too much in terms of like how it went because we knew the Raiders were not as close as good as the Jets were in terms of defensively and offensively.
But deep breath for Bills fans. I mean, let's say that they, God forbid, lost the game. That would be be man overboard situation. Or if they won, but it was, a close game at home, I think we would be very concerned. But this seems to be kind of what we expected from the Bills. And I think the fact that, they lost to the Jets after Aaron Rodgers not even playing in the game was a real shock to the system. But you see that in the NFL. Kansas City lost to Detroit in Week 1. Now Detroit comes back and loses in Week 2, and Kansas City wins. So early in the season in the NFL, very little seems to go by the script.
And how about the fact that they scored 5 touchdowns and Diggs had none of them?
Yeah.
So that just shows how balanced the offense was yesterday.
And that probably is like one of the, if we say we didn't learn anything, the running attack is diversified. James Cook looks like that great every down back for most situations. And then when they need short yardage, you got Harris and Murray, who were both successful yesterday. I thought it was odd to see Dawson Knox get 3 catches and a touchdown. See him, we drafted a tight end in the first round, and he didn't have a single reception this game. And so I thought that was odd. I mean, happy for Dawson Knox and everything, but, when you draft a tight end that early in the draft, you expect him to make an immediate impact, and I don't remember seeing him on the field much.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, there was a positive here for me, I think, and a big takeaway, right? But you guys have alluded to, right? I think it was just kind of more or less understanding the assignment and go back to kind of what I said a little bit last week, right? This was, especially offensively, right, a get-good game type thing. Like, go in there and, frankly, handle business, and they did, And, like you said, I think, if we're sitting here and it's, maybe even a score that's maybe 21-10 or something like that, we're probably having a bit of a different discussion for sure here coming into today. Yeah, let's jump into this game here, right? 38-10, Bills victory. Kyle, you mentioned it, right? Raiders kind of come out of the gate firing, to be completely honest. And I don't know, I think it might speak a little bit more to the Bills' defense than maybe, especially Denver's, which we'll talk about anyway a little bit here coming up because of who the Bills are playing anyway in week 3. But, Jimmy Garoppolo is at least, at worst what I call, your average NFL quarterback that, runs into a good game here and there and everything, at least keeps you contending. And kind of looked like maybe the Raiders would be kind of with it for a while there, and they just weren't. The Bills, like I said, they kind of just throttled up there on offense and more or less just took reins and took control and didn't really look back too much in that game yesterday. Allen, 31 for 37, 274 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had 36 rush yards. Or actually, that's more than that, I believe he had. And as I called it, though, yeah, Josh Allen.
He actually only had 7.
Yeah. So there is one thing I want to bring up, though, with Allen, and it kind of goes back to something that Kyle, that me and you discussed last week. And I go back to my tweet that I did during the game yesterday because I chuckle. I said Josh must have a little bit of that Syracuse quarterback DNA in him because he tried going airborne again on actually his old teammate, Mike Epps, and just got probably lucky that it was his former college teammate tackling him in such a way, but that's probably a different full discussion for another day.
You don't see Mahomes doing that.
Correct. Well,
look,
usually,
there's certain look.
yeah.
If it was the, AFC Championship game and they had a key first down late in the game, and you want to see Josh Allen give up his body to get that, of course. But in week 2 against the Raiders,
yeah,
no.
live to see another snap.
Right.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't have seen like Kincaid wasn't like involved at all. I just, I guess sometimes when you play fantasy sports, you kind of look at the fantasy line. You expect Kincaid maybe to be a big part of this
Right.
offense, the same way that like Travis Kelce is for Kansas City, or maybe Darren Waller is was supposed to be for the Giants. And I just didn't see that.
No, in fact, I think the most that I saw him. Now I think he have 2 receptions? I thought yesterday.
Kincaid had 5 catches,
Okay.
and
Right.
Knox had 3. So
Yeah.
it's more of a dual tight end situation.
Well, I was
guess.
going to say it felt like the only time, only here, right? The only time I saw him was like when they were kind of rolling out in the 3 tight end sets, where it was pretty much a deliberately called run play. And Jim, I'm going to piggyback off of you here, and I agree, right? I mean, I don't think you use your first round pick, frankly, on really any position, right? But if you got a tight end already in Dawson Knox, who you first off you paid,
Yeah.
right? And sure, he might not be a Kelsey or a Kittle or a Waller, but he can be that second tier, right? Kind of like your Evan Ingrams, stuff like that in that sense. I don't think you go and use a first-round pick on a guy like Dalton Kincaid necessarily, but I don't know if there's stuff maybe behind the scenes that obviously we just aren't seeing, if things maybe aren't clicking all that great right away with Kincaid. I don't know. But for the first 2 weeks of the season, it's definitely, I think, a fair – maybe the only really question mark kind of at the moment, right, on offense might be the Kincaid situation.
Yeah, who's the tight end one? Is it Knox or Kincaid?
Right.
Yeah, with how early he was drafted, I get your guys' point. He's not like popping out as much as you would expect him to pop out. Yeah, he had 5 catches, but like we all said, you didn't really notice it. It was like quietly 5 catches. And like when they get in the red zone, obviously they're still throwing to Knox. They're still utilizing him more than they're utilizing Kincaid. So yeah, over the next several weeks, let's see if that kind of changes. I did think Ken Dorsey's game plan was a lot better. Right off the start, you could see how quickly Allen was getting rid of the ball. He wasn't hanging on to it, looking down the field as much. He threw the ball, like he said, 31 for 37. Honestly, when a quarterback throws that many passes, that many attempts, you would think you would be like a 300-yard game. But because it was such short stuff, and he was just realizing that he didn't have to, throw the ball way down the field to move the ball. So I like that adjustment that they made, and I think he needs to realize that. Aside from him trying to jump over his former teammate, to me, he didn't really make any careless mistakes. He didn't really put himself in bad spots.
Right.
And that's what he needs to do against better defenses.
I mean, the one other mistake, and it got negated by defensive PI, was a similar one, I think. And it wasn't quite as egregious as, say, that arm punt in the first quarter against the Jets. That'd be the only other really mistake that I thought that kind of popped up. Like I said, I mean, it got negated. I think it was more than anything, he probably recognized the matchup and maybe knew what was kind of coming in a way. But, yeah, I mean, to more or less bounce back and have that game that he did, not only shuts shuts people like me up, for example, or anything like that, where it's openly questioning, right? But certainly, rights the ship, frankly, for the early part of the season for a quarterback that we do have some expectations for, right? And like we kind of said, a team that we have expectations for. And I'll kind of kick it off here too. I think it helps. James Cook, 17 carries for 123 yards on the ground. And Kyle, like you said, the passing game, maybe takes. You look at, you maybe expect 300, but when your ground game is that good, you don't need to worry about launching balls downfield and averaging double digits per attempt or anything like that, because you're moving the ball that well, you're taking big chunks. I mean, I kind of
35 times.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think James Cook. I think the Bills, as long as he continues like this is like the second game he's kind of had like this now in his 2 years. This might be the guy, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Thurman Thomas level type of guy that's going to be like the face of the franchise in the backfield for the next 10 years, or is he just, James Cook?
I don't know maybe quite about Thurman Thomas per se, but, maybe he kind of becomes, the guy before Derrick Henry with Tennessee, Chris Johnson, where you have a nice 5-6 year run of a running back that you can just rely on. And especially in the NFL today, I think that's invaluable.
Well, Cook looked great yesterday. He added the 36 yards receiving on 4 catches too. So, over 150 yards from scrimmage. I still like Singletary had games like that occasionally, right? Devin Singletary.
Yeah, but
so to me, it's because what is James going to do that again next week against Washington? Is he going to be that productive? For multiple weeks in a row here.
Sure.
Maybe not 150 yards from scrimmage, but a combined 100 yards from scrimmage next year against Washington would be a good sign. Having the pressure taken off him to not take a lot of the blows on the short yardage stuff, having Latavius Murray and Harris. I was really impressed with Murray, who, is at the tail end of his career, and, you weren't sure if he was going to come in as having regressed further than last time we saw him, but he was pretty solid. He had a touchdown, 6 carries for 22 yards and a touchdown, and that's what you want if you're the Bills. And then you got Damian Harris too, so I don't even know who the true number 2 short yardage guy is, Harris or Murray.
Yeah, it seems like this year with this team, like we just mentioned with the tight ends, there's like no exact set roles other than Cook's your number 1, of course. But like you said, who's the second running back? They're kind of rotating on and off throughout the game. And then Damian Harris is returning kicks, so maybe eventually they just kind of put him in that role. And if Murray keeps playing well and he's the number 2 back. But yeah, I do agree with you too. Consistency is a big thing with Cook. I think we need to continue to see him have these good games each week. But looking at the stats right now, again, we're only 2 weeks in, but he has the 4th most rushing yards in the league. He's, of course, Christian McCaffrey's on another level. He's 99 behind the leading rusher, McCaffrey. But we know how he is. As I said, he's
James
unbelievable.
Cook is no Christian McCaffrey.
Yep. So right now, being 4th most, that's great to see. But we're 2 weeks in. Consistency is the thing, and hopefully he continues to build off from this performance. And again, the Raiders' defense is not anywhere near the top of the league, so we need to see this against better defenses.
Yeah, but for me, the way I look at it, and this has been my big criticism for the Bills here in this window, is the running back position. They've had designated number 1s, but even the number 1, he's not getting number 1 carry total snaps. James Cook here clearly has the first 2 weeks of the year, and that's my thing with it, where it's and that's the thing, right? Do I expect him against, for example, Washington, who's giving up 92 yards or 96 yards of rushing on average this year, to have that? No, probably not, but I do expect him to be on the field for 35 snaps or whatever it could
be. And are they going to continue to give them the ball when they're not being successful on the ground? That's a sign of a team that's committed to, a running tack. Is you getting into the second quarter, you've not moving the ball. Are you going to continue to feed James Cook against a better defense, or are you just going to abandon it and start airing it out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was so balanced yesterday. 37 passing attempts and then 35 running attempts. So pretty balanced.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, let's move on into some receiving categories here. Stephon Diggs, 7 receptions for 66 yards, but Gabe Davis, 6 receptions, 92 yards, and a touchdown. Kyle, you've been pounding this drum both on air and off air, the Gabe Davis here, and able to at least get into the scoring column yesterday, but also piggybacked off a pretty good game anyway in week 1 to carry that into week 2.
Yeah, so he had 7 targets yesterday, and the only one he didn't catch was a ball that was actually thrown behind him, one of Allen's 6 misses yesterday. So, yeah, like I said, in our first show, I think Gabe Davis is going to have a big bounce back here. He showed yesterday that he isn't dropping as many balls as he was last year. I thought that one scramble play with Allen when he threw the touchdown to him between all those defenders in the end zone, I thought that was a really good catch by Davis. A lot of, as you would say, traffic in the way of him. So yeah, I liked what I saw from Davis. He needs to be that number 2 guy. He needs to show up like he did. Diggs shouldn't always need to be the receiver, or leading receiver, because some defenses will just lock him down. And yeah, I just like how balanced it was. It was so nice to see.
Tough to game plan against, if you're an opposing coach.
Right.
It can hurt you in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I mean, look at all the perceived teams across the league, right, who have these great number 1s, right, whether you do Cincinnati with Jamar Chase, Minnesota, right, with Justin Jefferson, but right behind them are a great number 2 addition, right, T. Higgins with Cincinnati, Addison in Minnesota. It tends to be, right, with these teams that if you don't have a good number 2, it can kind of shut you. I mean, Miami, right, with Hill and Waddle. I mean, if Gabe can continue what he's been doing, right, and that's a key thing, like I mentioned with Cook, I think is we've got 2 games in the book, and now you get slowly but surely, right, that notebook kind of gets built up a little bit for the year and stuff like that, starting really probably when we're back here next week talking about week 3, that's when you can kind of set the patterns for the year a little bit, in my mind, a little bit. And if we come back in and we talk about how, Davis had another 5, 6, 7 receptions, and same with Diggs and everything like that, I mean, that's a pretty good, like you said, Kyle, right, balanced attack, but to me that's a really good hammer core 1-2 punch at wideout.
And there was a little lack of that 3rd guy or 4th guy, the Cole Beasley, or we did get a touchdown from Khalil Shakir, but that was his only catch.
Right.
And only target.
Yeah, so it's like I guess that's kind of still a question mark too. Is who's gonna?
Could that fall into that tight end discussion we were having earlier to a degree?
Yeah, I mean that's where a lot of those targets went. I suppose between Kincaid and Knox, they had 8.
Oh yeah, here's the stat: 25 of the 36 targets went to either the 2 tight ends or Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. So, other than Shakir's lone catch, he wasn't throwing it to any of the receivers. So it's just the 2 tight ends and Davis and Diggs.
Deonta Hardy had
and
2 catches, but for 4 yards.
That's true.
Reggie
I missed
Gilliam
that.
had 1 catch for 3 yards, and that.
And then Trent Sherfield, the former Dolphin that they signed for speed, wasn't utilized. So it's just like, I don't know.
Well, at least the Gilliam one for me. I respect fullbacks in my offense, so nothing but respect for number 41 there on that end. Defensively, it was you want to talk about balance. It ended up being a balanced attack on defense as well. Terrell Bernard for the 2nd week in a row led the team in tackles, but only had 6 this time, but did have an interception.
Yeah, the secondary played well. They weren't getting to the quarterback. The pass rush, 0 sacks, I think, unless I missed something, right?
No
Yeah,
sacks.
not any sacks. So
Von Miller will change that in a couple weeks.
yeah, let's hope. Because to me, he's the difference man. I want to see him come back and be everything that he was before the injury, which is now, it's been almost a full calendar year, and so who knows what we're going to see when he finally comes back. But to hold any NFL team, to 10 points, and especially when you're putting up 38, it's pretty impressive performance by the defense.
Yeah. I know they didn't get any sacks, but they were pressuring him pretty good, I thought. You don't hold the team right to 10 points if you're not kind of getting to him a little bit. But Matt Milano had 4 tackles and interception. Micah Hyde had 5 tackles. Defensively, I know, like you said, Kyle, and Jim too, right? You're kind of waiting on Von Miller a little bit here, but I mean, at the same time, like he's going to be a nice added piece. But for what they got going right now, it's a nice little flow I like so far for the first 2 weeks of the season anyway from the defense.
Yeah, Leonard Floyd's been a big key. I know he only had two tackles yesterday, whatever it was, but even in the first game, they seemed like they did get quite a few sacks, didn't they? Didn't they get
Yeah.
4?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know why they couldn't get the sacks this game, but I did notice Jimmy Garoppolo was stepping up in the pocket. I think Jimmy Garoppolo's not like a great quarterback, but like
Better
you
than
said,
Zach Wilson.
yeah, like you said, he's like not terrible, and he does a good job at moving around, and I think that's what helped avoid sacks yesterday. But yeah, the secondary played well. Bernard, nice to see him get an interception. How about Bolanos? Went up and basically like mossed him.
Yeah.
And holding Josh Jacobs to -2 rushing yards.
Crazy.
That was the stat of the game.
He was the leading rusher in the NFL last year.
Yeah.
And -2 yards. And remember, the Bills have had trouble stopping the opposing team's top running backs.
Right.
We've seen what Derrick Henry's done to that defense over the years. We've seen the Patriots running backs do damage. So that was very encouraging to see.
Well, and the thing is, too, and he's not a name I have on here. He only ended up with a couple tackles. But, one of the names that, and he's now in what I think his third year, but Gregory Rousseau has had, his name has popped up a ton more on broadcast the first 2 weeks of the year. You mentioned, right, Leonard Floyd, who, and we can jump right into this a little bit with him now. Him and Micah Hyde both ended up getting a little bit dinged up in the game. Both listed as questionable in the early injury cycle here, but at this point, I kind of launch it up as I don't think anything serious. I think if it was anything at least super serious, right, we would have heard by now, kind of like how, David Montgomery news, for example, has kind of already come out that he'll be out a few weeks and stuff like that. So, but, I mean, those guys on the front end are having themselves a really good start to the year, and it backpedals to, Jim, what you brought up kind of at the start, right? The secondary plays well. When you have a full, good attack like that, everybody flows on defense, everybody finds that groove, it becomes a tough machine to stop.
Yeah, the only problem the Bills have really had over the last few years is pressure. If they get pressure on the quarterback, the secondary is going to do their job. It's the front four that need to apply the pressure. And yeah, they didn't have sacks yesterday, but they made it difficult for Garoppolo as he had 2 picks. So, yeah, I think that's the big key. And like I said, hopefully Von Miller does add that. Well, he should. Add that extra pressure that they need as long as they all stay healthy.
Definitely.
And Ed Oliver, too, needs to get some consideration. He's been pretty good, too.
Definitely. Yeah. Lastly, give a shout out to our special teams fans out there. Tyler Bass, 1-for-1 field goal, 29 yards there, but 5-for-5 extra points. So, all in all, just a really good, well-rounded game for the Bills. And like I said, kind of one of those deals where you had to go out, handle business, and mission accomplished, I'd say, out of week 2. So I guess with that in mind, we'll jump in and start discussing week 3. Bills back on the road at the Washington Commanders, a 1 p.m. game on CBS. As it sits right now in the early situation for those out there who bet, the Bills are a 6.5-point favorite, over under 44.5. Current forecast listed as 75 degrees at kickoff and partly cloudy.
That's a lot,
Yeah.
to be a 6.5-point road favorite.
Against a 2-0 team.
Yeah, it's kind of odd, but the interesting thing is Washington and the Raiders have both played Denver, and they both beat Denver. I guess Washington handled them a little easier. They had that Hail Mary to give them a chance at the end, but certainly the Commanders put up more points. But it should be the same type of deal to me, except for that you're on the road. But Buffalo should handle Washington.
They should.
Washington is the bottom half of the NFC East, so it's not like they're playing the Cowboys, right, or the Eagles. And it would be it's the type of game where you have nothing to gain, only things to lose. You're expected, if you're the Bills, to be 2-1. Taking on Miami in week 4.
And cover the spread. It cannot, in my opinion, this game can't be a 3-point game. They have to take care of business against this team. Sam Howell is no top-tier quarterback. So the defense shouldn't be struggling, and the offense should put up points. Although Washington's defense is better than Las Vegas is. So
But if they do keep, if it is one possession game and you're on the road, I mean, that's not making anybody comfortable. So again, we try everybody here in upstate and Western New York look to the Bills to have this Super Bowl window. And if you are that caliber of team, then a road game at Washington should be an easy win.
Yeah, let's give some stats here for Washington. 2-0 following a 35-33 victory in Denver during Week 2. Sam Howell for the season's 46 for 70, 501 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Their leading rusher, Brian Robinson Jr., 37 carries, 146 yards with 2 touchdowns. Their leading receiver right now with 7 receptions is Terry McLaurin, 85 yards and a touchdown. A lot of that probably attributed to the fact, Kyle, you bring up Sam Howell, right, second-year quarterback, but this
People
is
think he's a rookie, but
Right,
second year.
right, first full season. He did have one start Week 18 last year, but the main focus for Washington is definitely probably their defense, as you mentioned, Kyle, averaging, and albeit two games, right, but 228 yards is their average allowed with 132 through the air and 96 rushing. So outside of the Jets, and obviously way better than the Raiders, this is going to be an interesting test for the Bills, offensively in my mind. But, you know, it should be, I don't want to make it sound like it's easy, right? But your focus when you're facing a younger quarterback like Sam Howell, as we'll call in this situation, kind of much like in my mind, say the Jets situation when Zach Wilson came in Week 1, shut down where you know that they're going to be making inroads on offense, which would be running. And it's very apparent, at least if you go off of this Raider game, that shouldn't probably be an issue for them. So that way you kind of put, frankly, it's kind of like my adage in a way, you force the quarterback to make an error, force him to make the play. And
Well, it
whatever
plays
happens.
into what the Bills would like. You know, if you can shut down the running game, it's going to have to play a quicker game. That means Josh Allen's going to be on the field more often, have more opportunities. If you let a team establish the rush, you know, Josh Allen can be on the bench for, you know, multiple long stretches of the game. So I do think that this Washington rushing attack will be a little more of a challenge than the Raiders were. But, you know, the Washington doesn't have a Devontae Adams as their top wideout. So, you know, McLaurin's good and Dotson, but I think it'll be a little more of a
gotta
test.
say something, full disclosure.
Sure.
I'm a Washington fan.
Well, we know
you know.
that, yeah.
But for you, I just want to recognize you, Jim. Respect for recognizing Dotson.
He's-
I appreciate
He's
it.
out there on the field doing his best. But
Thanks
yeah,
to
I mean,
the
this should be the
unfortunately.
Bills should be able to contain this offense to the point of, you know, keeping them under 20 points,
Yeah.
and the Bills should always score more than 20 points. So it should be, whether they cover that spread or not, it should be an easy victory for Buffalo. And anything less than that, we will be back here next week probably with some concerns.
yeah, I hate to do this, Paul. This is
Okay.
2-0 is a fluke start.
Yeah.
They faced a Cardinals team with Josh Dobbs. They won by 4.
You lay off the rocket scientist.
Then they went to Denver, and they were down 21-3 in the first half against a Broncos team that just hasn't had it over the past
Fair.
couple years. And yes, okay, give them credit, they came back, and yeah, the Hail Mary was lucky and all that, but I just, for them being 2-0, who they've played and what they've done on offense, I mean, you just mentioned Sam Howell has 3 touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns in 2 games
Yeah.
against the Cardinals and Broncos team. Just doesn't do it for me. So yeah, I agree with him. If they don't go out and take care of business and win this game by double digits, I think we're coming in here next Monday and concerned.
And it should be a wake-up call for Sam Howell and the rest of the Commanders, you know, next Sunday afternoon when the Bills come to town. I'm sure somewhere there's a Washington Commanders podcast going on right
the
now
same
where
thing.
they're saying the same thing.
It
Hey,
seems
look-
like you're feeling a 3-0 start. Do you think they're going to beat the Bills?
No, I just think I don't know. I think offensively, Washington's just you got a young quarterback who's trying to learn. I don't think many people, not to go down a tangent, I don't think many people realize, like, we all joke about, like, say Cleveland and their quarterback situation. Washington's actually been worse.
Oh my God!
It's
yeah.
something like
They
it's
haven't
something like 22 and 26 seasons.
yeah,
like-
since Joe Theismann.
Yeah, I mean it's bad, but I mean, look,
Every quarterback is a young quarterback at some
Right.
point. You know, there was so you
He's
know.
gotta get reps.
Who knows what's going to become of Sam Howell's career?
He'll be the next Drew Lock.
oh,
Yeah,
why you gotta do that to me?
that's got to hurt your feelings a little bit.
That
doesn't
one does. But hey, look, I think the interesting part to me on this game is really Bills offense versus Commanders defense. Because look, these are two, I don't want to go out and say exactly high power, but these are two sides of the ball for both teams that they take great pride in. You know, to put it kind of bluntly. And I don't know. I do think the Bills have the obvious edge here, collectively overall, right? But I mean, like I said, Bills offense versus Commanders defense, that just from a football perspective, uber intrigues me anyway. Because, I mean, Kyle, I know you brought up Chase Young off air, but it's guys like Montez Sweat who, they're the ones who will end up making a difference. I think Chase Young, I don't know for sure yet. My guess would probably be he's still on a snap count next weekend. He was on a snap count this weekend coming back. But I would guess he's probably on a similar plane for next weekend. So, I mean, I think it's the guys like, you know, defensively, Montez Sweat causing problems up front, you know, Daron Payne, that, you know, you have to kind of watch out for. And then, you know, secondary's all right. Linebacking core, hit and miss for Washington, so it's whatever. But, you know, the front end, it's a lot like the Bills kind of in a way, right? That front end's causing enough problems that the secondary flows really well.
Well, they get this win, that would set up a big showdown with Miami, who's looked really good. I mean, at this moment, it looks like the AFC East will be between the Dolphins and the Bills, even though the Bills already lost to the Jets. But I mean, nobody's taking the Jets too seriously with since Rodgers got hurt. And
They got exposed yesterday.
Yeah,
Zach Wilson's not the guy, as they keep saying they're comfortable with.
and as did kind of New England. You know, New England, certainly nobody's penciling them in for any AFC championship.
They played the
games, but
Eagles tough, though.
Yeah,
and the Dolphins last night.
They're solid, look kind of solid on both sides of the ball, and you know Mac Jones is serviceable. You know, at the very least, right?
Yeah, their defense always gives them a chance to win, and it seems like they shut down offenses. Like we expected the Dolphins to go and drop 40, and they just kind of kept everything in front. They didn't let Hill, you know, get those big plays downfield like the Chargers did. And they're 0-2, but they played all right.
And they had the ball with a chance to tie the game late. They did
That was close, too.
Crazy lateral
Yeah.
to the offensive lineman who just fell short. But in reality, most people would say it's going to be between the Bills and the Dolphins. And
Right.
so
Definitely.
the big game that will determine that outcome will be played not next week, but the following week. And the Bills need to be 2-1 when they take on Miami.
Yeah, so I think with that in mind, I say we roll right into predictions then for Week 3 officially. Who wants to go first this week, I guess?
I'll go first.
All right, go ahead, Kyle.
If this Washington team gave up 33 to the Broncos, then the Bills are going to put up 35. I'll say 35-17 Bills win.
Ooh, okay. I think I'll go here because I think we're on a similar scoring plane here. I think 31-14 Bills is what I'm going with.
Yeah, I mean, they were home against the Raiders. They're on the road at Washington. I think it'll be 31-16.
Oh, 16.
Odd number.
Yeah.
Or even number, but odd football number.
I don't think that's a scoregami anymore, but
Well, you know, I'm thinking say, maybe they'll go for 2 once and not get it, kick a field goal.
Right.
Who knows? But I don't see them. I don't see them being able to put up points like they have the past couple weeks against this Bills defense.
so I was trying here quickly to look up who the Dolphins happen to have this week, and I don't know. Look, the NFL does their scheduling. They kind of throw it in not like a computer necessarily, but it's based off of that. The Dolphins this week are home against, you just saw it, didn't you?
Broncos.
The Broncos.
Isn't that crazy? So now the Bills will be playing for the third straight week, or not straight week because Washington didn't, but for the third time in 4 weeks, we'll be playing a team coming off a game against Denver.
Right.
That's weird.
That's That's crazy. No, it is for the third straight week. You're right.
No, because next week they'll play Washington.
Right, but they're playing Washington this week, who just came off of Denver. Oakland,
Oh.
or Raiders just came off of Denver.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's wild.
Those schedule makers or something.
Hey, I would hope
That
I would hope that the film exchange is pretty much done already, but
It shouldn't happen.
no, I agree.
And I wonder where else it happens across the league. I bet you that's the only instance where a team is playing the same team 3 weeks in a row that came off playing the same opponent.
That's crazy. There's definitely ways we can look that up. I'll see if we can get some sort of pattern or numbers going there. So either way, so we got pretty much Bills across the board here. Obviously, I believe we all have the over as well, and the Bills covering too. Technically here, I think.
Yeah.
So, how about that? Well, if you want more gambling in that sense, make sure you tune in Thursday for our Week 3 betting preview.
Yeah. Maybe I can get back on track.
Kyle, you're having a bad time over there.
How about the Eagles screwing me the other night?
The problem with betting in the NFL is that no matter which way you bet, it's usually going to come down to one or two key moments. Whether it's one or two key moments. A team goes for it on fourth down and gets it or doesn't get it. Or a catch is made and they review it and his foot was either in or out. I mean, just these little moments that will swing it one way or another. It's very rare do you sit back in the NFL and just laugh your way to the bank as you breeze through an easy cover.
Or for me, scoring late touchdowns with just over a minute to go and basically garbage time because the Vikings weren't going to come back.
Well, how about this? And this was really strange. The Rams are 7.5-point dogs to San Francisco. The game's over. 4 seconds left. They kick a field goal to cover the spread.
I saw that live.
Teams don't do that.
No one likes
in
a
the
sad
NFL.
field goal.
They don't kick a field goal to lose by less. They would just continue to try one more time for the touchdown. So why did they do that?
Yeah, because then they couldn't go onside kick because there was no time.
Right. So why did they do that? Because to cover the spread?
Are you saying the script has been leaked?
I don't know. It's stuff
Sean
like
McVay.
that. Stuff like that makes me
It does make
wonder.
you think. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fair. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I always lean by this as this is my more college football mantra, but I guess it goes across board, right? Nobody likes a sad field goal.
Yeah. Except the kicker.
I guess. fantasy players out there. So, all right. So that will pretty much wrap it up for Bills Weekly. Like I said, for the gambling portion of it, make sure you tune in Thursday afternoon for Week 3 betting preview here on FingerLakes1.com. So thanks for listening and watching today. You can find Bills Weekly on FingerLakes1.com, the FL1 YouTube channel, and all major podcast platforms, including Spotify and Amazon Music. So we'll be back same time next Monday. And until then, let's go Buffalo.